This is Coda Radio, episode 27 for December 10th, 2012. You're listening to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our host, Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael.
Oh, boy!
Afternoon to you, sir. Are you Mario today?
That was Mickey Mouse. Did I not hit it?
Oh, well, it was like Mickey Mouse if he was in a Mario game.
Oh, no.
Actually, I think that's the sweet spot, if you ask me.
That would make the Wii U worth its price.
Totally, man. Totally.
I could get Mickey Mouse chucking those turtle people at Bowser. Worth it.
You know, you never know. But I don't think that's what we're here to talk about today. What are we talking about today?
Well, during another retrospective episode, because, it's the end of the year. And I believe we're talking about HTML5.
Oh, right on. Boy, that'll be interesting.
It's going to be a rage-filled episode, I'm sure.
Oh, you think so? Okay, well, all right.
Maybe not.
Only if we get onto the topic of HTML5 video, then definitely.
I'll have to keep you calm.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's jump into the feedback, because we have quite a lot.
Right on. Let's do that.
So Chris, not this guy, Chris, writes in, so this is a guy from Beautiful Code. When I referenced beauty in sneer quotes, I meant the design of the C++ language.
Okay.
And how you can write with it in it basically any way you like. I'm sorry, I can't help but boil it down. Fair enough. And to the people who wrote me saying they don't believe that there are actually people who care about the aesthetic look of the code on paper, you're still dead wrong.
Yeah.
Go to a Ruby convention.
Yeah.
I
honestly have been. I didn't know that was a thing until I was told that by developers.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But it's a thing. Well, it's people who people get religious about everything, right? Like I'm a little crazy about where my braces go. Some people are nuts.
And I don't know. I suspect I suffer from a touch of dyslexia. And for me, reading a large block of code is actually kind of challenging. So if it is formatted properly, it is much easier for my brain to parse. So there could be some of that too. It's just easier to focus on, easier to follow the flow.
Yeah, and I think, most devs are like this to a point, right? There are certain code structure patterns you might use a lot, or ways of naming things. But what I thought he was talking about is far, far removed from that. It's quite extreme.
Okay.
And, it's neither here nor there, but we can move right along.
Yeah.
So a web developer who put his name as no name, thinking he was clever on the Wufoo form.
Very, very clever. Oh, it's very clever.
Wants to know why we, meaning you, hate Firefox. And he also sees a trend with other web devs to focus on WebKit over, Gecko or any of the other alternatives.
Yeah.
So, Chris.
On mobile, is he talking specifically mobile? Because I don't think Firefox...
General.
Okay.
In fact, I don't think he's talking about mobile at all. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I actually really like Firefox on the desktop. Now, it's not my primary browser, but I might even sometimes have 3 browsers going because I've got multiple Google accounts and, all this different stuff I'm logged into. Firefox is always one of them, and there are extensions that are better implemented under Firefox. Like, personally, I feel LastPass just works a little better under Firefox and things like that. But that said, Chrome to me does feel lighter on its feet in terms of, page rendering, and Chrome also does seem to be advancing features at a faster rate, and also I kind of feel like Firefox, even though it has accelerated, is also stagnated. And then transversely, somebody who works, I have a client who that uses a plugin for their website, a Firefox extension, in order to make functionality on their website, and they're transitioning away from this. But I have to tell you, the way Firefox has been issuing their updates has almost broken the extension every single release. And until Firefox 12 and 13 until those releases, this had never happened. It had never broken after any Firefox update. So they're also being a little haphazard with their testing. They've released recent releases that have had some pretty major flaws. I think they've issued a very quick follow-up release to. So I'm not very impressed with what the Firefox project is doing. Also, I feel like their focus on the Firefox OS is misguided and sort of leads them down a path where they should be focusing on making the best mobile browser and the best desktop browser.
Right.
But that said, I still think it's still one of my top pieces of software I run on any platform.
Sure. So, and I'll give him my answer too. So I should preface, I do actually have Firefox installed on all my machines.
Yeah.
It's a browser I test in and sometimes use for secondary things. A good example, some clients I have give me a Google Apps account on their account. So it can kind of get weird signing them with different Google IDs in the same browser. So I keep all that in Firefox. A few reasons I like Chrome. There's the obvious dev reason, right? I know Firebug is great, but I still think the built-in Chrome dev tools are just miles ahead.
Yeah.
On a less dev point of view, I use a lot of different machines in a given day. So I use Google Apps for Business. I'm able to sync all my documents, my settings, and the settings are really important, even the history of
You're talking Chrome right now?
Chrome, yeah, this is why.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. That's another big reason I use Chrome is the Bookmark Sync and all the settings sync and extension sync is really solid. And I know they have Mesh or whatever it's not Mesh, whatever it's called on Firefox, but it's not as easy to set up for one, and two, it's just not the same.
Another reason, and it's a stupid reason, I kind of like the Chrome App Store. Like I bought Bastion and Chrome for I think it was like $15. It's like, remember the day when Flash games were huge, but now we have a trusted source where they're not installing malware in the background.
It's true. I kind of, AJS124 in the chat room says Firefox Sync is a lot more private/secure. And, there is that interesting aspect to this conversation is in terms of your privacy, I honestly put a lot more faith in terms of privacy and in just what's best for the web. I put more faith in Mozilla and the Firefox project.
Yeah, and I won't deny that there's a bit of lock-in, right? So I'm rather than using a Microsoft Office suite or Microsoft 365, I'm using Google Apps for Business, and since I'm grandfathered in, mine is free. I don't know, you recently heard they changed that.
Yeah.
But if you are grandfathered in as a small business, you still don't pay.
Okay.
And there is a little bit of lock-in. It's strange to think of Google having lock-in. Sure, it works in IE, it works in Safari, it works in Firefox. I feel like it works better in Chrome. And I am using the full suite of Google Apps. So there is a little bit of that.
For me, Google Docs is, I don't know. I think it works great in Firefox too. I just, yeah.
Certainly, if, I have no illusions, right? I mean, if you ever look at Chrome's terms of service, which if you want to cry, go ahead. They are literally tracking you. And they're very open about that. So if you're doing something you don't want people to know about, that's fine. You might want to not use it, but I don't know.
I use Chromium on Ubuntu, and they remove that stuff.
So what's weird is I feel like Chromium doesn't work as well as Chrome.
I do too, actually, but I'm trying it again. I switched away for a while, and I've gone back. So the Chromium that's in a lot of the distros repos is old, and that's a big problem. But now the Ubuntu one, they got a guy who's keeping it up to date, and it's current, right. It's matching the release, and that seems like it's a lot better. So I think it was a version thing.
Now, and to answer his second point, the reason web devs are focusing on WebKit, I think, is fairly reasonable, right? All their sites have to perform well on the iPad. I mean, you could say other tablets, but generally the iPad, and that's WebKit.
Yeah, and it kind of has the old IE situation where if you write to WebKit and you assume most people are going to try to make their stuff render how it would look in WebKit. So right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you think about it, iOS, Android, all run WebKit. IE10, not WebKit, but it's actually not that far off. I would even say Firefox is a little further off in terms of mobile browsers.
I feel like I get a little frustrated that people are so butthurt about the WebKit situation because I feel like This is the dividend that WebKit now gets to cash in on by being the market innovator and the leader in this area. They've earned this position, and yes, it puts Triton on Windows Phone 8 phone at a disadvantage, and that sucks for Microsoft real bad. But if they would have done a better job of being a market innovator and leader, they would be in this position, and they would have that position, and they don't, and so now they get to whine about it. And you know what? I'm just over it.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same for all the other engines. I mean, things. Firefox, IE, Opera, they all have to keep up. And you could say that's not good, but it's not reality, right? I mean, you have to support WebKit.
Yeah, totally.
That may change, but I mean, with both Google and Apple backing WebKit, I don't see it changing anytime soon. Especially since, the mobile version of IE is doing a lot to be on parity with WebKit. So it seems like in terms of the vendors, the major ones have kind of just, all right, we have to kind of do things the way WebKit does them. Think about this: in the last couple of years, all the new, those TAC WebKit standards, a lot of them have just become standards. WebKit is the market leader in terms. So, we don't want to hit this too hard. And honestly, I rarely think about what kind of engine these browsers are running, because all I care about is, does it look good for the client on whatever browsers he and his customers are running.
Right.
And more, that is WebKit, though. A lot of people are just browsing on their iPad, browsing on their Android tablet.
Yeah. The client that I mentioned that has the Firefox plugin, they've completely rewritten to an HTML5 system for the iPad.
Yeah. But all right, we can move on from that.
Okay.
So Jason asks, Chris, go ahead and read it.
Jason asks, I didn't have the notes up, see, I was slacking off. So Jason asks, here is where I'm really stuck. How do you sit down and design something like a game? What tips would you give for actually laying out the design of the code and the UI that you need? I come from a heavy web background, and have been doing mostly procedural languages for the past 10 years. I have the training in OO. What's that? What's OO? Of course. Right. But haven't been using the skills. Mostly, I'm curious about the design side of apps and gaming. How do you do this so it doesn't take on a life of its own, but still gives me direction I need to move forward? Oh, wow.
So generally, the design will take a life of its own, right? In terms of, I'm assuming you mean graphics design, not game design. If you mean both, then yeah, it's going to take a life of its own. If you mean just graphics design, I would talk to a designer, figure out a clear style for your game moving forward. I mean, and this isn't just a game issue, right? This is any kind of consumer-facing UX-heavy project. You need to find a, quote, design language for your project and try not to deviate from it. Someone in the chat is being very helpful. If this is your first game, do something very simple, even if it's a shameless clone of something old. Right? I mean, that's fine. As long as it's not a clone of Angry Birds, just because. But yeah, it's the one thing is game development is probably the most cost-intensive type of development you're going to do as an indie. And the slowest, because there's a lot of intangibles, like, quote, is this fun? So best of luck. If you've been doing procedural programming, you didn't mention a language, the chat is, again, happy to mention Python plus Pygame. If that's your thing, give it a try. Otherwise, there are plenty of third-party game engines. You could look at Monogame. You could look at Impact.js if you're a JavaScript guy and you're trying to do something 2D. If you want to be hardcore and take years, you can look at Unity. But you'll have to really dive deeply into C# for that one. But best of luck. So Harley shares that go-tos are still used and can be useful in generated code, and also that Vala depends on glib.
Can I ask what a go-to is, or am I going to derail things too much?
Sure,
I know what a go. Go ahead.
Yeah, go-to, line number, execute. Yeah. So those two items are actually linked. So apparently Vala generates C code, which we knew, but it does use go-to statements in the generated code. Fair enough. Still writing go-tos, not a good idea. Okay, no, we have a lot of feedback, so I'm blowing through these shorter
It's all
ones.
right, man. Don't worry about it.
Charles writes into share just Java 2 for the AP Computer Science students who keep writing in asking for books. Additionally, he shares some notes on Code Academy that aren't terribly flattering.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I don't want to beat up on them too much, but I'll give you the thesis statement, so to speak. It's just not rigorous enough, and you can easily game it, and there's glitches. He gave one example where if you put quotes on something, it allowed a wrong answer as correct.
Why would you do that, though?
I don't know.
Maybe
I mean,
because you do it by mistake, maybe, and then it would...
I can see a scenario where an employer makes junior or intern developers use Code Academy as kind of a
benchmark.
Survival is the fittest type thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea, but
I said it was interesting.
All right, so Anthony asked, is there money to be made on the Ubuntu Software Center?
If you're Braid, there sure as hell is. Woo.
Yeah, if you're Braid or Super Meat Boy.
Yeah, boy, those there are a couple of apps that are cashing in, but I don't know. I'd be curious to see. Now, they're definitely getting a good flood of applications and everything. There's even a web browser in there for $5.
Yeah, I would say there certainly is, but it seems to be following the trend of all the app stores, right? Games seem to be making most of the money.
Yeah.
There's definitely downward price pressure. And
I'd be curious if anybody in the audience who submitted an app wants to share.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to someone who's, been on the App Store for a little while and, just see how you're doing.
I'd predict until Canonical does some more improvements to the App Store, there's going to be a bit of a ceiling on revenue, but and of course because of the size of the install base. But I guess the Braid folks were making quite a bit of money that they released some sort of statement about it. I can't remember the details now, but they were.
Yeah, I saw it. So they seem to. Obviously there's a pent up demand for Linux games.
Yeah.
If you're interested in getting on the Ubuntu Software Center and you're a game developer, and it's not going to be a tremendous investment to do so, to me that seems like the best bet right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Only because games have wide appeal. It's not a specialist program.
And people, people are going in there. I go in there and I just kind of look to see what's new, and I kind of I hope to find something. And I find myself grabbing. It was about once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. Yeah. I've been grabbing something. I'm looking. They've got one of the things that they've been doing, which is really smart, is after the Humble bundles kind of wrap up, they offer them for sale on the Ubuntu Software Center, so you can still go get them really easily. Only they're full price.
I've purchased games. So more often than not, I bought the Humble bundle and used the redeem on Ubuntu thing.
Yep, that's nice.
Yeah, which actually worked fairly well. I was surprised at how seamless that was.
And then you get the updates through Software Center.
You could never do that on the Mac App Store. So I was impressed to see that.
That is really nice, isn't it?
See, angry people, I said something nice. All right. So Kyle shares a book called Think Java for our fellow AP students. A lot of the listeners are AP Java students.
Huh. Java, baby.
Well, it's compelled, so you can only take it in Java. So if you're AP, you have to take Java. But interesting.
Yes.
I haven't read this book. Apparently, no one likes my idea of buying the Java programming manual from Oracle and reading it.
Well, maybe if people need to fall asleep.
Hey, that's what we did at my day.
Back in my day. So that was Think
Java.
Think
AP Java. I apologize.
Think AP Java at Green Tea Press, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes. How to think like a computer scientist. So thanks, Kyle. If he's in the thick of this stuff right now, he probably knows it's probably a good one, right? He's having to slog through it right now.
Unless, of course, he failed his exam. But hey.
Oh yeah, maybe we should ask for his grades before.
I'd like to see your report. Thank you.
Yeah. Could you send it? Yeah. Well, hey, you know what we ought to do? We got a couple of things we could mention if that wraps up the feedback. What do you think?
That wraps up the feedback, nice and quick.
All right, well, something kind of exciting because there's somebody in the chat room right now who's just created something I think we could talk about. And, of course, Mr. Dominic is a creator of something I'd like to talk about. And I am a creator of something I'd like to talk about, and that would be the Jupiter Broadcasting Network. And, of course, all of these fine shows are really made possible because of our great host. Not really... Hosts make the shows. Yeah, what?
Why is there a 1970s spy on the homepage of Jupiter Broadcasting?
If you click on that and then you look, I very cleverly inserted another agency's logo in the lens, and I even made it look like the reflective glass is
Oh my
over.
God.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I worked on that. I work on these. I make all of these, and I work hard on them.
Enjoy Gitmo.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I am probably going to end up on somebody's radar.
Yeah.
So anyways, if you want to help contribute towards my Get Chris Out of Jail fund, one of the ways you can do that and keep these shows on the air is by using our affiliate links we have at the bottom of Jupiter Broadcasting. You probably know about those. We also have our browser extensions. You add those to your browser, and it automatically tags your shopping session, includes more affiliates than we even have down there. And those are on GitHub, too. And you can always go check them out or contribute to them or leave a comment or a feature request on the GitHub page. That's pretty cool. And, doing that keeps these shows going. We're like shows like this. Maybe one day we'll have a glorious sponsor who wants to awash us in riches. But until then, you guys keep us going. You guys keep us on there. And basically what that equates to is, while we don't make a lot off affiliates, thankfully, as Jupiter Broadcasting has grown, the affiliate usage has grown, and it matches our bandwidth bills almost exactly. It is a beautiful harmony, and you guys literally keep the shows coming to you by using this system. So it's a circle of life, if you will. You can also lock in funding by going to jupiterbroadcasting.com/donate if you have a little bit of money to contribute monthly, like $7 or $10 or a one-time donation. That's great too. Now, what if I am like I'm a professional, and I got the codes on the GitHub. I want to keep track of projects. Maybe I'm a Mac user, or I know somebody who's a Mac user, and they're intelligent, and they have good taste, and they want to keep track of comments on on open issues, or maybe they want to keep in touch with all their fellow coders on GitHub, or maybe they just wanted something that takes advantage of Mountain Lion's built-in notification center. Well, I think we have a solution for these people, don't we, Michael?
Yes, they would check out CodeJournal, and if they're really smart, they'd buy it direct.
Now, I go to codejournalapp.com myself, and that's how I would do it. And then I would just click that Buy Now button, and it should be taken care of. And of course, now this is Michael's app, and all of you longtime listeners know that. But it's a great app, and just check it out. Now, is the mobile version pay now?
No.
Really? Still free?
Still waiting for review.
It is an opportunity, folks.
So to be fair, the app is always going to be free.
Oh, okay.
What happened was I meant to not add a feature that was going to be an in-app purchase that got added, but it wasn't done. So we had a little git merge issue.
I see.
Yes.
Well,
so I did, but no, it's so it's fixed. It's always going to be free, basically.
Well, good. All right.
It just lets you monitor your GitHub feed. Surprisingly useful when you can know that people haven't pushed in like a week. You need to yell at them.
Shane Kuvel says he really loves your payment system.
Gumroad?
Is that so? You're not using?
Yep.
I thought you switched to PayPal.
I tried. I was in contact with them. So the problem is,
oh yeah, Gumroad.
If you pay via PayPal with PayPal, right? So if you bought CodeJournal and you paid via your PayPal balance, I can validate that receipt instantly. If you paid via credit card, PayPal will send me a link that says you paid, but the card could charge back, and I can't get the software back.
Yeah, that's a big problem with PayPal in
general.
And
apparently, they have it's a very common thing, and their guidance is if you can't handle that, or if you don't want to set up like an email distribution system that actually waits, not to do that. Gumroad doesn't have that issue, or hasn't yet. I think they charge you immediately. Yeah.
There you go. Well, so Gumroad is something other people might want to check out if they're selling their apps.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yes. Now, before we get out of here, I thought maybe we'd also mention the cherry notes that Nathan PC in the chat room has made for the BlackBerry platform. It just hit the app world today. I just think it's so cool that when people in our audience are creating apps, and you guys, if you create something, tell us about it at CoderRadio at JupiterBroadcasting.com. And cherry notes is it's going to be available for the playbook too, which is cool.
I would even offer to review it. Unfortunately, I don't have a device that can run it.
If only you had some sort of device so that way you could try development. That would be a really good idea on BlackBerry's on RIM's part, wouldn't it? So it's the text editor of your dreams, folks. Go check it out if you have a BlackBerry device and you want a new app. It looks like it's pretty cool, and he says it's a text editor.
Great.
It's a text editor for everyone that lives in the cloud but wants control over local and cloud text files. That sounds like me.
And Nathan, we'd love to hear about your development story on that. So write in or whatever. Yeah, because that's already I have questions. So it lives in the cloud. Are you running some backend web service?
I know, right? Oh,
I'm like, oh, what is he doing here?
Oh, I didn't see the screenshots earlier. Oh, cool. Yeah. There's screenshots.
It's actually looking really good.
Yeah, that does look really good. I think I'm going to be really interested to check out are they calling it BlackBerry OS? Whatever they're calling the next revision of their OS, the 10.
I think it's BB10, right? BlackBerry 10.
Yeah. I kind of got my interest piqued a little bit. Very cool. Well, congrats, Nathan PC, and thanks for joining us. It syncs to Dropbox, he says. That's great.
Gotta love Dropbox.
Seriously, Dropbox, at the end of the day, you can have your iClouds, you can have your Google Docs, but for me, it's Dropbox. And I know we've even covered some of the security implications of Dropbox on the TextNet program, but I got to tell you.
It's about security? What? You mean they read all my stuff?
Well, they just use one encryption key to encrypt everything, and so they can... And they also have systems in place to identify illegal content, so they can do sweeps of your Dropbox. And if you store like downloaded MKVs in there, they have the ability to find them. They're not necessarily doing that, but if they had some sort of warrant or something like that, they could. And I just don't like that, But I don't use it for anything that I wouldn't eventually like. A lot of it's just mostly show materials like visuals and sound effects and stuff. All that stuff goes public anyways. And notes. Some of my notes, maybe not.
So. Wasn't that a big deal about 3 months ago? Like someone freaked out on the internet.
I was like,
right, I take it back. So someone freaking out on the internet.
Yeah, that's not new.
That's not fair.
No, it was June or July, I think.
Didn't they change their terms?
They did make some tweaks, but it's not. It wasn't sufficient.
Whatever, I use it every day.
No, I mean, I could not do these shows without it at this point. I'm using it to do this show right now. It's. If I need Captain Picard to say,
computer, what happened?
That comes from the Dropbox. That's in Dropbox.
I haven't heard from the president today. I'm wondering if I.
You mean Mr. Obama? Mr. Obama, Indeed. He's also in Dropbox.
Hello, everybody.
I also keep Richard Stallman in there.
It's negative in the freedom dimension.
I don't think he'd like that he's in Dropbox, to be honest with you. Now that I think about it, that probably upsets him. But he doesn't seem to complain too much, other than just constantly calling it negative in the freedom dimension.
I'm negative in the freedom. All right, Chris, let's move on to the hoopla, because I realized I thought we were good on time, and we, of course, never are.
Hoopla time. All right, what is it?
All right, so perspective. Why C++ is not back.
Oh,
you gotta say it with some vitriol and rage.
Wait, I thought C++ is alive. I thought it's back, baby, and it's getting more popular than ever.
Well, this is a response to the article we had in the Hoopla 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And this was sent in by Charles and another listener who I don't forget. I did not notice this on my own. They had to send it to me. It's a great article that you should go read if you are interested in C++ or thinking about doing C++ development. Not going to cover it in depth here because we've kind of gone over this already. But I definitely, if you read the first one, definitely read the reply.
That's it?
That's it.
I was sitting back expecting you to go for a while. Okay, all right.
No, I mean, it's kind of thick.
Okay.
And since I know most of our listeners aren't really interested in that style of development, it's very specialized. So you have to be really interested in doing C++.
Si, senor. Okay. All right. So we'll have a link to that if you guys want to go read that.
Now, this is not specialized. So, Chris, there's been some anger.
No. Impossible.
Indie devs are once again channeling the dark side of the force. Their skin's turning gray. It's getting wrinkled. Eyes are turning red. But why?
Yeah.
Did someone pull their app down? No. Did they not get paid? Kind of, but no. They are mad, and this is a company called... It's a company I know, but I can't remember the name of because I'm crazy. So, how to best frame this? So, there's a game called Great Big War Game, which is a game on iOS and Android. They were not featured on the Windows 8 store.
Okay.
And because of this, they wrote a very, very upset blog post.
Oh, because they're like, hey, we got a great app, and you didn't talk about us.
Well, so here's the problem. That blog post was edited several times. The initial version that I read is much different than the version you'd find now.
Oh, really?
The initial version was basically, well, Apple features us, and Google features us, and Microsoft, you should feature us too. And it was very like entitled and bitchy.
Because they were expecting early adopter spotlight. You know, that's kind of that is, let's be honest. I mean, if somebody comes to the platform, one of the nice things if you're an early arriver is they usually get featured by the platform provider.
So that's what version 2 of the article came out to be.
Okay.
So the problem is they did a good job at this.
They didn't start there.
Yeah. Version 1 was very, how do we say, entitled? Very much asking for special treatment. So I've talked about how I feel about sometimes when, isn't it weird how every time an ex-Apple developer does an independent app, he gets featured? Huh. Isn't it weird how the big names in the Apple space always get featured?
Yeah.
It just seems a little odd, and they never really have anything negative about Apple on their channels.
Well, I mean, that's
Yeah, it's trading in favor, right?
Exactly.
I'm shocked that an indie dev would be so open that they trade in favor, and so upset that they didn't get the same kind of. Well, let's be clear: being featured is special treatment. If you think it's all merit, you're nuts.
Now, why do you say that? Because I don't disagree, but I think that's a pretty bold statement.
Because it's the truth. A lot of it has to do with, the algorithm is the algorithm. So the top charts are fairly legit, except for all the people who game the algorithm. But in general,
we're never going to get featured now. and that sounds like I'm kidding, but that actually is true. Coda Radio was a featured podcast until we had an episode that had negative comments about Apple in it, and then they pulled it down. Off the feature, it's still in the iTunes store.
And it's not just Apple. Google does the same thing. There are 3 main ways to get featured. You do something they want to encourage, i.e. in-app purchases, or in Google's case, AdMob, right? Or you're high profile, or someone. It's one of those things where, you have to accept it. For instance, if John Gruber released an app or endorsed an app, it would be featured.
Sure, of course.
And this is just the way it works.
Well, from one perspective, it could also be like, for example, Shane Kufel there, a outstanding contributor to the Jupiter broadcasting community. He's created apps for us. He's worked in forums. He's just done so many things. And I could go on and on. And if he came to me with something, I would be much more inclined to favorably promote it on our shows just as a thank you to him, because I know that he's a known good source.
Right. So I just want to comment on something in the chat. JB Viewer 5 says, if your app has a good user experience, you will get featured. It's not always true. So if your app has a good user experience and does something that's not currently on the agenda, I'll give you a great example. When iCloud came out, all the featured apps used iCloud. And I'm not saying this is wrong, right? I'm saying this is reality.
And sometimes they're very straightforward for it, like optimized for the iPod Mini.
Right, and it's theirs. I'm not criticizing the act of getting featured. Sure, sometimes there's nepotism, but that's life. What I'm criticizing is this developer. So I just want to be very clear.
Okay.
Like, it's their app store; they can do whatever the hell they want. The developer felt that they could bring the business model and paradigms from one platform. This is the Android problem, right? Everybody just ports iOS apps using iOS conventions to Android, and it looks like crap.
It's interesting.
This is the same. And to be fair, they got what they wanted, because in the final version of the blog post that's up now, they mentioned, "Oh, Microsoft got in touch with us. Everything's okay." So they literally got what they wanted. Like they screamed loud enough until, kind of like a toddler, until mommy came and said, "It's okay. We'll put you on the front page."
Now, but is this an indication that maybe Microsoft isn't really equipped to deal with small independent development shops, that they are more geared towards large-scale development and working with partners like EA and things like that?
Well, it's certainly, it's undeniable that there's a discoverability problem on the RT store. Right. And, I do empathize with this developer. I understand what he's saying. But his first argument, if he initially had said, well, discovery is bad, and if you don't get featured, you're screwed. I mean, that's true on all the stores. But his basic argument of, well, Apple featured us, so Microsoft should do because they're not as good as Apple. Like,
Yeah.
that's, first of all, if I'm Microsoft, that tells me that, oh, I'm your second choice. Like, wouldn't you encourage developers to want to do your platform your way instead of porting iOS to you?
In the new world order of app stores and distribution coming from the platform provider, this favoritism and featured stuff has a much larger impact on the market than it would have back when software was primarily sold directly on websites or from box stores. Not that it's all transitioned to stores yet, but that's where things are going. And it kind of makes me nervous that you'll essentially have very, very, very challenging exposure for developers starting out and coming up in the ranks. And honestly, the Google App Store started as more of an algorithm-based store, and it sucked. And they got rid of it. Now they have large tiles with featured pages and things like that, and it's much better to find stuff. But it's also more human intervention.
Because here's the problem, right? An algorithm, can be gamed. Common practice that Apple had to shut down was people were hiring. Think of gold farming and MMOs. We're hiring folks in Asia to just download their free app and keep 5-starring it till it hit the top of the chart over and over again with different user IDs. This is a reality, and I'm not, I don't want to come too hard on them, right? Because they said they spent like 11 grand porting it, whatever. But did nobody stop and think that doing a 1-for-1 port to the new platform instead of trying to think of, okay, what are the big selling points of this platform? I mean, did no one think that? Or do they just assume that, they were going to get featured because of who they are? Like, I've played their games. They're okay. I was surprised to see them even featured on the iPad.
Really?
I was not surprised to see them featured in the Google Play Store, but that's because there's not, up until recently, there really hasn't been much in terms of high-quality games. And again, I would love to hear from these guys because, you edited your post 3 times, and maybe your PR guy's just a hothead and you had to yell at him. That's, maybe all's fair, right? Maybe there's just a hothead who freaked out. But, I mean, that's a bold move, right? Like, I'd care to wager if I, wrote a letter to Apple saying, I'm annoyed that all my app reviews now take 30 days or more, and implied that that was because I pissed them off, if they wouldn't take 2 months now.
Well, I find
Although I effectively just did that, so.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Do you think it's that connected? Do you think they could be actually that well? I mean, think about the coordination and organization.
No, it's very connected. So I've worked with clients who are in good graces with various platform vendors, and it's very connected. Depending on who you are, you can get a phone call and be on the phone for an hour discussing implementation details.
Yeah.
And that kind of hands-on guidance. And again, this isn't an Apple thing. This is the future. If the platform vendor has a stake in your product, and they care about you, it's all sunshine and roses. Problem is if they don't care about you.
Linux. That's what I'm saying.
No, Ubuntu Canonical is going to do the same damn thing.
Oh, you're probably right.
I mean, I owe Alan Pope, he asked me to email him some thoughts on the Software Center. And I was writing it up, and I still haven't sent it as a draft. Unfortunately, the only way to handle these spam and IP theft problems is to do this. But it's so easy to get into the favoritism game. And you kind of can't. Because sure, if you want to protect yourself from liability, well, I know Jupiter Broadcasting is a legit company, so I'll just feature their apps when I need to feature something.
Right. That's what
This isn't necessarily an evil thing, and I totally understand the frustration.
The difference with Ubuntu is it would be very, very hard for them to sort of lock it down in the sense where, like, in RT, you can only install apps from the store. So they are the de facto, and on the iPad, right? They are the only option. Whereas in Ubuntu, that's going to be very hard for Canonical to ever do.
I don't think so.
You think?
It's a commit away, baby. It's not that hard. And I don't...
Not as long as there's things like Steam and other software services available for it.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Unity mobile product.
Oh, yeah.
That is essentially locked, Ubuntu RT.
I think they'd be throwing away a ton of their advantage if they did that.
Well, I think they should stay out of mobile anyway because they just don't have it. Let Android do it. but
Boom.
I've not been impressed. I like their desktop offering, but I just want to get back to the core point here.
Okay.
Point is for all our, because Chris, you read the email. We get them all the time from folks developing games or apps. This is the market you're going to live in, right? This is like feudalism all over again. You're just a serf. They'll kill you and replace you with the guy behind you tomorrow. If you want to live here, you have to accept that, it's just not going to be like, this one time raging out on your blog helped someone. 99% of the times it doesn't.
And they were probably butthurt because they know this is a problem and they wanted that early arrivers advantage, and they felt like probably because the news constantly says Microsoft is desperate for apps, they probably assumed that this was going to be a reward for getting over there, and when they didn't get it.
So Microsoft and Google and probably even BlackBerry, the ones who are encouraging more development, aren't desperate for apps. They're desperate for apps that align with their goals. A straight port of an iOS app is probably not aligned with their goals. Microsoft, I'm sure, would like to see some really, really deep Xbox Live integration, not just, the cosmetic stuff.
Right.
Just like Google would like to see you really integrate with their advertising services and their location services so they can get those data points. You have to understand who you're dealing with. And Apple, of course, would like you to make everything look like leather because they're kinky like that.
No, they fired Scott Forstall, and everything needs to be aluminum. Aluminum? Aluminum?
Aluminium.
Aluminium, yeah.
Say it the wrong way, you're done.
Right.
Johnny Ives is not going to tolerate that. Yeah, it's what it is? It's almost like, I hate to say it, but you're going to have to, well, I guess I have to say, you're going to have to redesign your product for the platform if you want some sort of favorable treatment.
That's just such a hard position for Microsoft to try to defend.
But it's not Microsoft defending it, right? Google has their...
Well, that's what they're telling people, though. I mean, if you're right, in order to get all that stuff, what they're really saying, that's what the deal is. You need to do all those things, and that's a huge freaking commitment. That's just a huge freaking commitment for them, for somebody to make to them.
So basically, to sum this up, because we need to get onto the topic.
Yeah.
Someone opens your app on platform A, they should never think, this feels like platform B.
Right.
That's why cross-platform sucks. Awful. Moving right along, Chris.
Coder Radio, JupiterBroadcasting.com. I didn't say it.
Code Journal will now be pulled from the Mac App Store anytime. The email's on its way, baby. Hey, I did everything according to the human interface guidelines.
Hey, no, Apple would agree with you. Remember, they tried to ban people who would use toolkits that would build for multiple platforms.
No, actually, I hate to say it, but Apple's actually right.
See,
yeah, JB Viewer 5's upset. Yes, you were right. The UX has to be native for the platform. It can't be, I don't want Mac apps that look like Metro apps because that would be freaky. On the other side, I don't want Metro apps that look like Mac apps, basically. Oh. So now that we've raged out against cross-platform development, let's talk about HTML5.
Boom.
All right. So, Chris, I love JavaScript. I wake up every morning, in fact, all year, and I cuddle the JavaScript Ninja. It's a plush toy. I'm lying about all of this.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I got a good visual, though.
Good. So, would you float that HTML5 has been big this year? Maybe kind of like a footnote, at least?
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I know maybe you've never heard of it, guys, in the chat room, but so it's like HTML4, but like incremented 1.
Huh.
Right? So it's like C++, it's HTML++.
Oh.
And it's also got its buddies, CSS, not 1, not 2, but 3.
Boom.
Boom. And it's all based on WebKit, baby. Kind of, sort of, not really. So HTML5 has allowed us to have some really nice stuff. I can play not Bastion because that's done in the native kit from Google. I can play other games that I play, whose names I don't remember. Something called Battleheart, I think.
Okay.
In the Google Chrome App Store. I can play lots of other annoying vil games. I mean, take a noun and put the suffix vil, and you've got something. By the way, Chris, did you hear they're going to real money gambling?
Yeah, in Vegas only right now, right? Isn't that like something?
Dude, why can't they just gracefully give the money back to the investors and
I know it is
Sure.
weird, man. It's weird to watch them just make these weird mistakes. Maybe
Well,
it'll go big. I don't know. Hey, if they can
so
legalize weed, maybe they'll legalize. No, never gonna happen.
better shot legalizing online gambling.
Yep.
They they a few months ago said they wanted to be a core gaming company,
What does that even mean?
like serious games. So like they released a really good game on the iPad called Horn,
Huh.
and then they went, and now we're going to be a gambling company. Woot.
Hmm.
But anyway, so while they're still around, Zynga's games are sometimes they're done in Flash, but some of the newer ones are a good example of what you can do in HTML5.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay.
There's a lot of HTML5 game engines, Impact.js. That's the one I use, so I don't know the others. There's PhoneGap. There's the big Canvas. And if you don't know, Canvas is the thing that lets you execute code in a little block. So like most of your HTML5 games are in the Canvas, right? Canvas is a new tag. Do your games in there. But it's not just about games. HTML5 has allowed us to take rich web apps and actually run them on mobile browsers, which is why, like in our feedback, WebKit has been so dominant this year. But this being a retrospective show, I have some insane predictions that I want to see if Chris agrees with.
Okay.
So, I think HTML5 becomes the dominant game development language,
Oh my
with the
gosh.
exception of AAA, like console games and stuff like that. Someone in the pre-show chat was telling us every game that was featured on the Windows 8 newest RT commercial is an HTML5 game.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think you're smoking from the same pipe that Bomber's smoking from.
Oh, no, I said this is what's going to happen. I didn't say it should happen. There's difference. So prediction versus desire. Having said that, I'm seeing a lot of it on the iPad as well, and a ton of it on my Nexus.
Yeah, but when you say HTML5, an app that has it's got maybe like an app frame around an HTML5 page, it's just always balls compared to. I mean, look at all the high profile switches away from HTML5 to native app.
I'm sorry, Chris. What is it? It's what?
Balls.
It's balls. Interesting. We won't go into that. So by high profile switches, I'm assuming you're referring to Mr. Zuckerberg.
There's one of them, yeah.
Just one. I'd say HTML. So I said games, not apps. First of all, I would say for apps, I still don't think HTML5 can do it because it can't support a lot of the native functionality. Taking iOS, I can't do iCloud. Taking Mac, I can't do iCloud. Right. I will say for casual games, it's probably where we're going to want to look.
I mean, they really are introducing a lot of features that are directed at gaming, including like work on syncing up 3D objects on screen with audio cues and things like that. It's, all stuff you need for gaming.
Now, the big risk, surprisingly, I actually don't think this is a terrible thing. I pretty much prefer native development, but do you see a downside in this?
Performance. And remember how you just said it sucks when something isn't native to the platform? HTML5 will always be the lowest common denominator in terms of interface design. I would assume.
But for a game, right? So we're talking like games, not apps.
Well, if it's going to happen with games, it's going to happen with apps too. But yeah, I guess it's less. Games have traditionally always had their own unique interface, around them. I guess I should back up, but I could say if the performance is good enough and all of the feature set can be accommodated, then I would actually kind of like it.
So, I mean, this year we've seen tremendous performance increases in JavaScript engines.
Yeah.
I would say that bring on the haterade. That Chrome and the V8 engine have done the most in terms of performance. I'd say that, and again, keep the haterade coming.
Well, it really has been neck and neck with all the browsers. They all have been really working hard on this.
I'd say Firefox is the slowest, but that's anecdotal.
Yeah.
So the other problem is when I'm playing HTML5 games, I'm usually playing them in Chrome, and when I try them in other browsers, they don't seem to perform well.
Nathan PC in the chat, remember, he was the guy that made that app.
Right.
He points out that RIM has an awesome UI framework to make your HTML5 apps look native, and he links to their GitHub. How awesome is that BlackBerry RIM's putting it up? Just put it up on GitHub. That's cool.
I'm telling you, I think RIM is going to make a comeback.
They're obviously trying to reach out to devs on their own home turf, and I think that's a good sign. That's a sign that they're at least somebody in their team at least understands how the workflow for developers works.
Now that I've said that, you can mail my BlackBerry playbook too.
Yeah, right.
No, I think RIM has a shot only because I know a lot of business folks who just don't want to give up those BlackBerries.
Huh.
And a lot of folks are running RIM servers.
I used to know those folks. I honestly don't anymore. They've all been replaced with Droids and iPhones, and all of my clients.
All of them, wow.
The only people that have BlackBerries, I swear to God, the only people that have BlackBerries are the government contractors that come in to work with my clients. Otherwise, like people from the state, they're the only people that have BlackBerries.
Zane is trying to make me cry. He says, you know what has an awesome HTML5 API, WebOS?
Yeah.
It's just a heartbreaking loss. So that's a good story for this year in HTML, right? That was the big dream, a whole HTML platform for mobile.
And Firefox is trying to do that with Firefox OS.
It's nothing like repeating failure, guys. Was that too mean?
Well, I mean, you seem to think it should be doable.
So the problem is I think it's doable for games. I don't really think it's doable for most other type of projects because you're going to want that native experience.
WebOS felt awfully native.
Okay, fair enough. Firefox OS. What store can I go into in 6 months and buy a Firefox tablet?
Right. Well, sure. But does that really speak to the usability of the platform, or does that speak to just, late to market?
Speaks to what developers are going to do it speaks to what developers will do in 2013 based on market share.
For sure it does.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I think it would be, in terms of cross-platform support, reaching tablets and Linux and Mac and Windows, HTML5 games would be a huge advantage for the user. As long as, it would probably just be initially certain types of more limited games, right? And then it would sort of grow from there as the language develops.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice tech demos that Google's done of like,
oh yeah,
I think it's Unreal Tournament done purely in HTML.
Really?
Yeah, the problem is those things are very vendor specific.
I gotta go
so I think it's Unreal or is it Quake? I can't remember. Whichever one they can actually do because it's open source and licensed.
Oh, that's probably Quake.
Yeah. The real disappointment this year is, the big space for HTML has really been games, right? And mostly Facebook games. The Google Plus game thing hasn't caught on. At least not in anybody who I follow or follows me. I don't know, Chris, are you playing any HTML games on Google Plus?
No, not really my thing.
Right. Because I was hoping that would be an area of, potential development for developers.
I just, I don't know. If I'm going to play a casual game like that, I don't really tend to do it in a social setting.
Chris doesn't like you.
No, it's just that seems like the kind of thing you do to screw off. And, I don't know. I guess you could do, I guess why not? I just haven't tried it, I suppose. So yeah, you're right. It was, Google shows how HTML5 can run Quake in the browser, and they have a video here on the TechCrunch. It's just a YouTube embed. And I guess it's a demo of it. To show off what's possible with HTML5 in the browser, some of the engineers on the Google Web Toolkit team created an HTML5 port of the classic first-person shooter Quake 2. That's pretty cool. So I'll play a little bit of it. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see if it has sound. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean they've got keyboard controls working here, which is that's significant. They've got the guys blow up when they die, and there's sound with it. I mean it really is kind of showing you how all these different standards have been developed over the years are coming together. I think that's pretty impressive. HTML5 WebSockets for the network connection stuff. What they would need to get my attention is do a really cool side scroller. Then I'd be down for that. I do prefer this over things like the Unity web browser plugin.
I've got it. Super Mario World HTML edition.
That's what Nintendo should do. They really could. I mean, that would probably work fine, and they could probably sell it for $2.99 online.
they're never going to do that.
No.
You have
No.
far better chance of going to Mars.
Yeah.
No, but back to the point. I see HTML really got a lot of hype this year, and I don't think it was quite ready. I think next year it's going to actually do what people have been trying to claim it does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Like it really had the hype, and then Mark Zuckerberg was like, "No."
Have you heard of Banana Bread from Mozilla?
I have not. What's that?
So Banana Bread, and I'm running it ironically in Chrome right now, but it looks
Sure.
like it's a first-person shooter. It's loading right now. I'm gonna tell high res. Oh my gosh, it just went full screen. So you guys only be able to see part of it, if you see it at all.
What is this?
It is wow.
Oh, They're
This
taking
looks
the fight to Google.
this looks incredible. It doesn't no sound though, but I gotta tell you, man, the graphics are really smooth. I'm in fly mode somehow. I see. I'm in just like explore mode. Oh, well.
Is it a shooter? This is great radio, by the way.
I'm sorry. I'll stop. It is a first-person shooter, and I'm in world, but I'm in map creation mode right now. It looks like, or something like that. And there's other players here too. It's pretty impressive. This is all happening in HTML5. I would say this is.
I'd be interested to know if that's Canvas or are they doing their own little native thing?
I'll do some digging while you're over there DOS keyboarding.
Oh, my bad.
that thing is a monster. So that's Banana Bread. You can just I just searched for Banana Bread demo to find that, but it's from Mozilla. So yeah, somebody mentioned that in the chat room. Thank you to whoever mentioned that in the chat room. So I mean, obviously you're right. So here you go. Banana Bread is a 3D first-person shooter that runs on the web. It takes Cube 2, the Sauerbraten engine, great game, which is written in C++ and OpenGL. Wow. And compiles it using EM scripting, I don't know, I'm probably getting that wrong, into JavaScript and WebGL, so that it can run in modern browsers using standard-based web APIs without the need for plugins. And there was no plugin. I just went to it and it did a little loading in the background and then it started. Mozilla created this project for several reasons. To run as a test cape for running demanding 3D games in the browser. And it was very smooth, and it brought the temperature of my machine up, too. The fans kicked in.
And isn't that the dream, right? No plugins.
Yeah.
Right there. That's the key.
And it's going to be next, in 2013 even more, it's going to be important that it's not even x86 specific. Because with tablets just almost universally being ARM at this point until the Pro comes out. Targeting the ARM platform is equally as important as.
Wait, the Pro came out?
No, when it comes out.
I was gonna say, how the hell did I miss that?
No, when it comes out, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That's really, for the audio listeners, he's showing, I would say, circa early 2000s graphics.
Yeah, with maybe slightly better lighting effects and shadow effects.
Yeah, I mean, this is, if you remember LAN parties, you'll be right at home. Now, can you actually, is this a paid game, or is this just a free tech demo from Mozilla?
Free 5-level tech demo. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well done.
I'll put I'll link to it in the show nizzles so people can check that out. There you go. So you know what, Mr. Dominic, you're obviously very right. But Mozilla's obviously going that direction. Google's obviously going that direction.
Yeah.
And really, Apple has every reason to push that direction. And I'll tell you, Microsoft's already made the bet.
Not right. Apple doesn't.
How do they not?
So my theory is that Apple doesn't want to. Apple wants you to use their native features. Apple doesn't want you to do your apps cross-platform.
Girlfriend, you're crazy.
I am crazy.
I don't know if you know this, but Apple also makes money off Macintosh sales. And if you can make something in HTML5, it can also play on the Macintosh. And they like that. And I'll just point out, I'm not Apple's biggest fan, but I just like to play devil's advocate, I guess. They are the ones that made a web browser on the mobile platform that ties in with a lot of things like motion control and all this kind of stuff first. They were first to market with a lot of this stuff to make the best HTML5 web browser on the mobile platform. So they sort of set the bar on that. And I would say they've not really ever they were the first to make it so that way you could pin an app to a start screen and have the actual fave icon for the app icon. And I mean that's I don't know. I think they're the ones that sort of set it up to make web apps a little more successful.
But if you remember when the iOS launched, it was supposed to be only web apps.
Right. Well.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll see. I mean, I'm happy that Mozilla is able to do this. I mean, obviously, progress is good no matter who does it.
Yeah.
Right? That's always been my thing. What I want to see is Assassin's Creed in HTML5.
Well, I mean, that Banana Bread demo was pretty good, and that was just a demo that they put together.
No, so
And they took C++ code and they did it.
telling you, I think next year could be a great year. And to be clear to all the super technical people, of course, when we say HTML5, we're really talking about JavaScript, right? Like it's basically mostly JavaScript and the canvas tag.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing that's interesting is there's been a lot of attempts to replace JavaScript. I don't know if any of those none of those really took off. I mean, Microsoft has TypeScript, Google has Dart.
No.
Ruby hippies love CoffeeScript.
Everybody's given up on that now. I mean, look at how Windows 8 embraces JavaScript in Metro.
Yeah. It should be interesting. If anything, are you ready for a bold prediction?
Yeah.
2013, the year of JavaScript.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun.
I go down with that. It seems, though, that 2012 might have been the year of JavaScript.
Maybe.
I think it might have been. I mean, it's a sort of, you have a lot of big players in the market that are all kind of agreeing that JavaScript's the bee's knees. And I think there's a lot of people in our audience that disagree with that. I think there's a lot of people that agree with it too, but I think it's kind of happened. Now we're like, it's sort of like a lot of things that happened in 2012 is we're really positioned great for some interesting things to happen in 2013 now with it. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. I think we've killed this, and we've made some bold predictions that we're probably going to get to eat next year.
Yeah. At least we didn't record it, so that way we can't be held accountable.
Yeah, we're just not going to release it. We're going to release an episode of I don't know.
We'll take an episode of SciByte and cut it with an episode of TechSnap, and then just put the Coda Radio intro on it and see if anybody notices.
Watch they prefer it.
Now, have we talked about taking time off in the holidays? Have we? Because in 2 weeks, Coda Radio is going to be on Christmas Eve. We're not doing.
Yeah.
Have we decided what we're going to do about that? When we do, we should let folks know.
I think we did, and I think we did let them know.
Oh, okay, good. I know we talked about.
You know what we decided, right?
Recording on a Friday. Right?
So we're doing the 17th and tentatively the 21st.
Right. So instead of having an episode on the 24th, we'll have an episode on the 21st.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Dominic, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I just got that on iTunes. Excellent movie.
What's that?
Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, it's out on. That's right, it's out now.
Yes.
Well, there you go. All right, Mr. Dominic. Before we get out of here, why don't you tell folks where they can find you throughout the week?
They can find me at mdominic.com on Google+. Oh, they could also join the new Indie Dev Google+ community.
I saw that. Did you create that?
I did create that because
cool.
I had like 3 duplicate communities that were all different versions of Dev.
There's a JB Live community too. I didn't create it, but they're stocking it full of content, so you guys can check that out too. We'll have links to both our social network profiles in the show notes. You can email us, coderradio@jupiterbroadcasting.com. Coder Radio is live Mondays at 9 a.m. noon Eastern at jblive.tv and jblive.info for the audio stream. And we're available for download Monday afternoons. All right, Mr. Dominic, well, thanks for the great show.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. We'll see you right back here next week.